Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Apple Crisp. And not just any apple crisp, the world's crispiest apple crisp. And how does it get so crispy? Secret ingredient that you're going to see in a minute. I don't want to spoil the surprise. So anyway, we're going to get started here with the topping, which is very, very simple to make. So into a mixing bowl, we're going to add some flour, just regular all-purpose flour. We're also going to need some sugar to help caramelize this all together. So we're going to use white and brown sugar. We're going to put in some rolled oats, very traditional ingredient in fruit crisps. And then this secret ingredient, do you recognize it? What is it? What is it? It's grape nuts. That's right. And by the way, if you're not from here and you have no idea what grape nuts are, feel free to Google it. It's very interesting. But basically, grape nuts are a very crispy / crunchy breakfast cereal. And they're really, really great for these kinds of toppings. And I bet you didn't even know grapes had nuts. Oh, they have nuts. All right. So some grape nuts. And then last but not least, melted butter. We're going to pour that in and we're going to stir that together. All right, so once that's thoroughly combined, you're just going to set that aside until our apples are prepped, which is the next step. All right, first up with the apples, we're going to peel them. I'm using a mixture of green and red. I have some Granny Smith and some Pink Lady. I tend to stick with the feminine apples for this, but you could use the more masculine varieties, like some nice Harry Jims or Golden Lesters. Pretty much anything will work. So you're going to peel your apples, and then we're going to slice them. And here's my method. I want you to take the apple and cut it in quarters, and then you're just going to remove the core from each quarter. So slice it down, slice it that way. All right, looks good. Now there's several ways you can core them. You can just flip it over on the cutting board and just make a diagonal cut like that. All right, that totally works. You can also do it in your hand like this, just pulling the knife towards you. All right, once your apples are peeled and cored, take your knife and just slice them up. What are those? 1/8 slices? 1/4 slices? I don't know. I'm not measuring them. Just slice them sort of the same size. Go ahead and toss those in a mixing bowl. We're going to use the juice of half a lemon in this, so you might as well get it in there right now. Not only will it taste good, it will keep the apples from browning. All right, so I'm going to squeeze the juice of half a lemon in there, give it a little toss, and then continue with my apple prep. And every time I toss an apple in, I'll just give it a little mix to make sure it gets coated with a little bit of that lemon juice. After that, we're going to head over to the stove where I'm going to melt some butter in a large skillet over medium heat, to which I'm going to add some brown sugar and some white sugar. And I'm going to give that a stir. And we're just going to let that sugar melt into the butter. All right, while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Be careful with your heat. Mine was too high. Check it out. All right, starting to caramelize a little bit there. No big deal, but you don't really need for that to happen. All right, so once the sugar's kind of melted into the butter and looks kind of like a caramel sauce, we're going to go ahead and throw in your apples and just a little splash of water, about a tablespoon. And we're just going to keep cooking that on medium heat, stirring the whole time until the apples just soften a little bit and sort of get coated with that caramel sauce. So most apple crisp recipes start with raw apples and the apples cook all the way in the oven. I don't really like that. For me, I always want to give the apples a little bit of a head start because that topping is going to be perfect in a half hour. And I don't know if the apples are going to be totally tender and sweet and amazing after 30 minutes. So for me, this works a lot better. And in a few minutes, you're going to have something that looks like that and you're ready for the final assembly. All right, I'm going to dump the apples in your standard size casserole dish. What is that, like a 2 quart, 2.5 quarts, something like that. Dump the apples in, even them out a little bit. And by the way, I mentioned earlier that I accidentally candied a little bit of that sugar. And I can tell because there's a little piece of what looks like hard candy right there, which I'm totally going to grab now and eat. Accidental apple candy. After that, we're going to go ahead and dump on the topping, and you could just dump it all on at once and smooth it out. But for whatever reason, it actually is more fun if you sprinkle a little at a time. I can't explain. All right, so sprinkle on the topping, do not press it down, and that is ready for the oven, which has been preheated to 375. That's going to go in there for about 25 to 30 minutes until the top is beautifully browned, and you'll see what looks to be a caramel sauce bubbling around the outside. Of course, by the time I get the shot, it stopped bubbling. But you know what I mean. It'll look all hot and bubbly, and you're done. All right, you're going to definitely want to let this cool a little bit. I mean, that's really between you and the first 2 or 3 layers of skin on the roof of your mouth. But I would suggest a cooling period of at least 15 minutes, and then dig in. You could serve as is. You could serve with ice cream. You could serve with whipped cream. Although I'm not a big fan of the whipped cream. People seem to like it. All right, let me try some of this. Okay, so the fruit mixture is really just like a super delicious apple pie filling. And then the topping, as advertised, very crisp, very crunchy. And texturally, those grape nuts really do a great job. So I hope you give this a try. All the ingredients are on foodwishes.com, and more information, of course. And as always, enjoy.